Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson recently outlined his vision for Ukraine's future in an op-ed for the Daily Mail. His proposals, which include significant geopolitical shifts and controversial strategies, offer a new perspective on the ongoing conflict. Let's delve into the complexities and implications of the great baboon called Boris Johnson and his plan.
Welcome to TFI Global, the antidote to mass delusion.
Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who alongside Polish President Andrzej Duda played a role in undermining Russian-Ukrainian peace talks in spring 2022, presented his vision for Ukraine's future in a recent op-ed for the Daily Mail. Johnson's plan involves Trump lifting all US restrictions on weapons to Ukraine if he returns to power, assuming this would enable Kiev to push Russia back to the pre-special operation boundaries of early 2022. See, this is all serious, but I'm laughing. Johnson suggests that in return, Russia would allow Ukraine to join the EU and NATO, provided Ukraine offers special protections for Russian speakers. Additionally, he envisions a rapprochement between the West and Russia, potentially leading to Russia's re-entry into the G8 and the resumption of its NATO partnership. While Johnson's proposal appear unrealistic and politically incorrect from a Western perspective, the package merits analysis as a whole, at least for a good laugh. The initial part of Johnson's plan hinges on a recently proposed strategy where the US might lift restrictions if Russia refuses to negotiate with Ukraine while withholding support from Ukraine if it declines to negotiate with Russia. Johnson assumes Ukraine would agree to talks and Russia would not, a premise that will never hold. Further, he assumes that lifting restrictions would enable Ukraine to revert to its 2022 boundaries. It's very optimistic and extremely flawed assumption. Johnson's proposal then becomes more intriguing. He steps back from his previous demands for a maximalist victory, suggesting instead that Ukraine should aim for its early 2022 borders rather than its pre-2014 ones. He also advocates for special protections for Russian speakers in Ukraine, a significant shift from his earlier stance on socio-cultural unity in the country. This change is notable, especially coming from someone previously seen as a hardliner. But seriously, Ukraine aiming for its early 2022 borders as if Russia is going to give it on a golden platter. Anyway, Johnson's insistence on Ukraine's formal NATO membership remains problematic. Russia is unlikely to agree to this, despite Ukraine's growing network of bilateral security guarantees which effectively serve the same purpose. Additionally, Johnson's suggestion that Russia might be interested in returning to the G7 and resuming its NATO partnership are very, and I can say very 200 times over again, optimistic. While these ideas are intended as incentives for Russian compliance, they are super misguided given the current geopolitical climate. The significance of Johnson's peace plan lies in its acknowledgement of previously taboo topics, territorial compromises with Russia and protection for Russian speakers in Ukraine. These issues have been central to the conflict's recent escalation. Johnson's shift hints that other anti-Russian hawks among Western elites are beginning to recognize the improbability of Ukraine achieving a maximalist victory as military dynamics increasingly favor Russia. Johnson's role in sabotaging the 2022 peace talks is well documented, with Duda's involvement being less publicized. His current stance may indicate that other influential hawks have also reconsidered their positions. This potential shift among Western leaders comes as the military and strategic balance continues to tip in Russia's favor. But I say this shift is not shifting enough. It needs to shift a lot more in order to reflect the current reality. Anyway, Johnson's proposal, while being almost 100% flawed, opens the door to discussions about more realistic outcomes for the Ukraine conflict. As the US approaches its next presidential election, with Trump a sure contender, Johnson's ideas may gain traction. The evolving dialogue around these issues suggests a slow but significant change in Western perspectives on the Ukraine conflict, potentially leading to new approaches and strategies. In summary, Boris Johnson is smoking something really potent, and he must go for a trademark as soon as possible, because this is a sure shot business plan that is going to be a life and game changer in the future. But his peace plan definitely reflects a notable shift in thinking among Western leaders. His proposal, despite being stupid, signals a willingness to consider territorial compromises and protections for Russian speakers, topics that have long been avoided. Boris Johnson, what a buffoon.